Funding for Joseph Osicki, The Art of Life, has been provided by Stark Community Foundation, celebrating 50 years as your trusted partner in giving. To learn how you can give back, visit starkcf.org. The Institute of Museum and Library Services, the primary source of federal support for the nation's 123,000 libraries and 17,500 museums.
On Armistice Day, November 11, 1918, people celebrated the end of World War I, while a young couple in Detroit celebrated the birth of their second child. Joseph Benjamin Osicki arrived November 9, 1918, the second son for Helen and Joseph Osicki. Shortly after he was born, the couple moved back to their native Cleveland, where they'd have 3 more children, Bob, Agnes, and Ben, and enjoy the support of Polish relatives nearby in their Slavic village neighborhood. Young Joseph spent a lot of time with his maternal grandmother.
3 of them were going to my paternal grandmother's house while my mother worked, and I was sent to her house because her parents were more genteel, and I was a quiet kid. I discovered art as something that I was given to keep busy when I was a little kid and be a nice boy.
His first brush with drawing came at Grandmother Polinsky's, where Joe found a lot to look at in the barnyard.
And she was rather experimental with what the fowl she had. She used to buy eggs at the market and not pay much attention to what they were. They looked interesting, or they were speckled, or something like that. And then she would hatch them. And she had bantams, and she had pheasants, and guinea fowl, and they were all in her barnyard.
From the barnyard to the zoo, Joe became intrigued by animals and nature. He began to draw at age 4. As he grew, he recalls a childhood rich with experiences shared often with his brother Dan, who was just 15 months older.
In summer vacation, he and I were ordered out of the house with a lunch, a streetcar pass, and a couple of nickels. That was to release my mother from having, 5 children there. She only had 3. And we were ordered to come back at dinner time. So we went everywhere. Lake Erie, Gordon Park, swimming every place, camping every place. We had a friend, and we were reading boys' books about adventure. We were always scouts or Indians. But I always carried a drawing pad and a sketchbook, little sketchbook.
To this day, he remains committed to the importance of sketching. In his studio, there are boxes full of sketchbooks. His budding talent did not go unnoticed by his parents. They enrolled both of their oldest boys in Saturday classes at the Cleveland Art Museum. Dissatisfied with his first teacher, Joe transferred to a different class taught by Alfred Wands.
But he's the one who brought the cages with the white rats in, and large pads of newsprint, and Chinese ink and Chinese brushes, and had set up these long tables with the cages of rats, and we sat there with a drawing board against there and painted, and we had to use the brushes, and we painted the white rats. And that was the best experience I ever had in any art school.
Wands, who later moved to Denver and became well known for his landscape paintings, taught the young Joe fundamental skills.
You had to use your arm. You could draw a straight line with it. Also, you can draw. You have control over it. You can draw up, and you can draw down. So you can draw any direction with the brush holding it this way. But it's also useful for watercolor, of course. This is the only kind of demonstrations I do, okay, about how you can do something better, more easily, as you paint. An oil brush, people don't know how to. You see them in a movie, and the artist is holding the brush like this, and he's painting this pretty girl. Okay. When you're painting, you do what Buddy Rich did, like a drumstick. You're holding a drumstick.
In his oil paintings, Joe explores a range of subjects. He recalls being frequently inspired by an incident that occurred when he was just 8 years old. He remembers it, as he does many things, vividly. He was with his mother at the zoo near the tigers in the cat house. Police mounted on horseback were nearby.
And as we walked along, those two tigers got up suddenly and they pounced against the cage. And the tigers shook the cage. And the horses started misbehaving and became active. But those horses were well trained, and the policemen were able to control them. But one got off and led his, and the other stayed on mounted. And that stuck with me, that image, and it's still with me. And I did those tigers over and over again.
He painted these Brookside Zoo cats in the 1990s. Other early memories remain strong for Joe as well. He recalls catching fish for the aquarium in his 5th grade classroom at Charles Dickens Elementary.
My brother and I knew where the tiny, most colorful wild fish were. And you can't believe it, but now it was right out off Shaker Lakes in Doan Creek. We were getting the most beautiful little sunfish and bluegills. And we would get these, they would only be about 1.5 inches long. We had these big blue mason jars that we would take with us, and we'd get those wonderful little fish and put them in the blue mason jars and take them into our biology class and draw and paint them. And Miss Warner allowed all this to go on. But, those were things that were very influential. You think about them back, how they counted.
Perhaps no one counted more to Joe than his parents, especially his father.
My father said, do anything you want to do in life, but be good at it, and do it now.
His father passed on to him a love of sport, especially baseball and speed skating, which was a family affair. His uncle was a world champion. Joe and his siblings all spent time on the ice.
He was a master skater. I saw his racing skates once. He used to skate at the Elysium, which is that old ice skating rink down at 105th and Euclid. He remembered that when they used to drop him off there. His family was involved in bicycle racing. He played baseball in the Army. He was a semi-professional baseball player.
Joe calls his dad the best coach he ever had.
He talks about how his dad always told him that you can do anything you want, just make sure you do it really well. And those experiences where he was given the opportunity at a young age, he decided he liked drawing and he just continued with it. And they supported that. And I think that those relationships that he made and that upbringing that he had just kind of gave him that groundedness that a lot of people don't have.
Supportive parents and supportive teachers encouraged Joe's art interests. At East Tech High School, he recalls the best art history class he ever had with teacher Paul Scherer.
We had to draw all those great cultures. We had to draw the Egyptian temples, the Assyrian ziggurats, and the Greek temples. He gave us a short lecture about things, and we sat there and drew, and if we didn't finish the drawing in an hour and a half, we had to take it home and finish it, okay?
He was influenced by artists who visited the class.
I had heroes. Paul Travis was a hero because he came into the class, and he was, had been in Africa twice and was doing those African paintings. And he came into the class, and we all stood up, to welcome the teacher and the hero. I took drawing all through high school. I took life drawing with Paul Travis.
And he honed his skills with watercolors, amassing a collection that attracted the attention of his art teachers during a week-long class camping trip.
They saw this portfolio I had of watercolors, and they suggested that I apply for a scholarship. And they were very good. This was the Depression, and they bought the mat board to cut mats for them. They paid for the mat board themselves, and they cut the mats, and they did the mats so they were nice and clean and neat. And they took them over to the art school to show them. And they refused to cut back on it. They wanted 10 things only for samples from the students, but they took 25 watercolors. I don't know if they were killing them with kindness or not. Assume not. But anyway, I did get a scholarship, and it was a result of their encouragement and help.
He entered the Cleveland School of Art in 1937. A year later, he exhibited for the first time at the Cleveland Art Museum's popular May show. After graduating from art school in 1940, he was drafted into the Army and served in India during World War II.
I was a mail orderly. I went to the train station and got the mail, and then I had mail called out all the names that I could pronounce. This I did up in Darjeeling. I went north for vacation. That's a Tibetan with a pony.
He found time to sketch during those mail runs.
Yes, this is also a bazaar, and a big banyan tree, and some of the little stalls around there. One of the important things I got from Paul Travis, I think it was the most important thing, and that is he talked a lot about the rhythm in drawing.
Such rhythm involves working quickly, simplifying forms, and moving rhythmically with sure, spontaneous brush strokes. Armed with worldly experience and more than 700 drawings, Joe was discharged from the Army in 1945. He returned to Cleveland, where he'd soon meet the love of his life.
The more I see you, the more I want you.
She's a beauty. She looks like a movie star.
Algesa D'Agostino turned heads, especially young Joe Osicki's.
I saw her on a bus. She had makeup on, all silk stockings and eyelashes.
That's what you remembered about her.
I remembered about her, and I remember her getting off the bus, and everybody turning around there and seeing where she got off, watching her get off the bus. So she was conspicuous.
The daughter of Italian immigrants, Algesa had style. Though she frequented many of the same places Joe did when they were growing up, he had never met her.
Well, I saw her when I got out of the Army. I went to see Paul Travis, and I drew in his class, and she came to visit the class one day with a friend. I saw her there. We were both waiting for the rain. In fact, everybody was waiting for the rain to stop so they could run over to get their ride or go to the streetcar, So we were all standing there at the old art school inside, and people were wandering around. And, and she was with us, another group, and so forth.
When you saw her, did she strike you? Was she striking to you?
Well, I remembered her, that's all. She had She had a different kind of hairdo from everybody else.
In 1946, the artist William Summer had an exhibit at the 1030 Gallery. Joe went to see it. Algesa volunteered there.
I heard her say to the two Manning girls, "You took the last one. I think I'll take this one." That's what I heard her say. And then she came over and asked me if I was there to see the show. So I said, yes. I said, I liked William Summer, and I came to see the William Summer show.
Smitten, Joe wanted to ask her out, but thought she was unavailable. So he decided to join artist friends John Paul Miller and Paul Travis on a summer trip out west.
We had a good time, but I wanted to forget about Algesa. We hadn't gotten to Indiana line when John Paul Miller asked me, just out of clear blue, he asked both of us, Trav and myself, because Trav had her first student. He said, "Do you think Algesa is superficial?" I didn't answer at all. I was forgetting Algesa, okay? I was not going to discuss her at all. Trav said, "I always thought she was a very nice girl." And that was the end of it. And her name never came up again. And I didn't want it to, because I was trying to get rid of the image.
But when he returned, Algesa invited him over for a meeting of the 1030 Gallery Board, and she made a declaration that changed his future.
She went to the kitchen with me. She got the opener. I opened the bottle of wine. I poured 2 half glasses of wine, and I gave her one of the glasses, and I kept one, and I said, "I want to be the first to wish you nothing but happiness in your future." And I bent over and I kissed her on the forehead. And she said, "Put down your glass." And then she threw her arms around me, and she kissed me all over my face, and she said, "I love you, I love you, I love you. Do you love me?" And I said, "Algesa," I said, not to be gauche about this, but this is so sudden.
Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling.
We started dating that night. Within a week, I had an offer at Ohio State for a job. She couldn't leave the gallery, and I couldn't pass up the job. So I commuted for the following 3 semesters to Cleveland every weekend I could.
At Ohio State, Joe taught art with Hoyt Sherman and Roy Lichtenstein, who became a close friend. In fact, he and Algesa introduced Roy to his first wife, Isabel Wilson. Sherman's teaching of visual perception through flash laboratories had a strong influence on Joe. Sherman would flash images on projection screens and have students draw what they saw.
The students, they felt that it was their learning the drawing was sort of a magic trick. I wanted them to feel that all their drawing was their own, and I want them to feel secure about themselves, and it wasn't somebody else's magic that was helping them do this.
Drawn back to Northeast Ohio by Algesa, Joe became an instructor at the Akron Art Institute. He and Algesa married on August 2nd, 1947.
I proposed to her, and she said, "This has been the happiest year of my life." She said, you don't have to marry me." She said, "Can you give me 2 good reasons why I should marry you?" And I said, "Well, one reason is that I would never have a child with anyone else if I didn't have a child with you, because I think you're marvelous, you're wonderful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." So she said, "Well, I'll think about it." She puts her finger up to her forehead like this, and she does a ballet spin, one revolution, and she stops, and she said, "I've thought about it, okay." So that's how it all happened.
Algesa and Joe were together, but they were distinct. They were very distinct, and that blending, like one of Algesa's recipes, where you combine different ingredients and you get a fabulous tasting dish, and I think that relationship was. I think it's just a model of the healthy, productive relationship between a man and a woman.
They shared a special love for each other and for the experience of artistic creation.
She was the same way because she said, please don't buy me an engagement ring. She said, I like the little Singer sewing machine so I can make my clothes.
She made more than her own clothes.
These are Algesa Osiki's very famous
special
soft sculptures. This gentleman here with all the coffee cups is Pierre Bonnard. And the gentleman on this side with the water lilies is Monet.
A skilled seamstress like her mother, Algesa paid homage to many influences with her soft sculpture. She was well read, something Joe shared.
I read the books she read. I read all those girls' books. Okay. Well, they're really not girls' books. I found out they were not really girls' books. They were about English life. I wanted to know where she came from.
In 1950, the Osikis welcomed the arrival of their first and only child, Joel Benjamin. Prior to his birth, Algesa had left her position as director of the 1030 Gallery, which closed a short time later. After Joel was born, she became a successful freelance interior designer, and Joe worked as a graphic designer. Though she never met Algesa, Christine Fowler Shearer from the Canton Museum of Art has heard countless stories from Joe over the past 2 years as she's been cataloging the Osikis' entire personal collection.
Joe is one of those rare people who looked at teaching in his graphic design career as a positive because it gave him the opportunity to paint. Most artists would rather just spend their entire day painting. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they resent having to do some of these other things. And so the fact that his life was so full and he was just so optimistic about everything and so happy about everything that it was okay that he had to go to work every day because it gave him the opportunity to paint. And I think Algesa and him worked that out well. She would take jobs so that he could paint. He would take, jobs so she could do things. And it's an inspiring relationship to me. I've never seen anything like it.
At one time, for about 8 or 10 years, I did all of the renderings for the presentation for University Hospital for fundraising. I had a background in industrial design.
So that's the kind of stuff I was doing that people paid money for. They didn't pay money for painting.
In 1962, the Osikis bought a summer home in Deer Isle, Maine. They had spent time in New England on Cape Cod with the Lichtensteins. Joe recalls the beach at Truro, Massachusetts, captured in these simple ink sketches.
I like them because there's very little in them.
Yes.
But again, if the position of a thing is right and you can see the thing is unified, you don't need any more. In fact, the more detail you put in, you kill it.
During some 30 summers in Maine, he found inspiration in the landscape. He also became acquainted with other well-known artists like Will Barnett. Christine Fowler Shearer recalls conversations during cataloging sessions that left her in awe.
I'll be sitting there and he'll be talking about somebody and I'll be like, oh, he's talking about Will Barnett. Oh my God, he knew Will Barnett, and it took me a while to figure out who he was talking about. And he'd be like, yeah, Will called me the other day. What do you mean Will called you the other day? He had these connections that nobody knows about because he's not the type of artist that promotes himself that way.
During one visit with Lichtenstein in New York, Joe recalls checking out 18 different gallery exhibits.
Every show we saw was abstract expressionism. Every show, 18 shows in a row. Roy said, we can't do this anymore, or we can't do this at all. He said, I'm going to have to do something else. And I said, yeah, and I'm going to have to go into my backyard. I'm not interested in this.
Lichtenstein became famous for his pop art using a commercial technique, Ben-Day dots.
I was very pleased that he started making money. He wasn't making any money. And Algesa was selling his prints and his paintings in Cleveland. Roy was very fond of Algesa, and she was fond of him. And Roy was very generous about things.
I have to spin this.
Joe's large canvases can be difficult to move, as photographer Sean Wood found out while taking pictures of them in the Osicki studio. When Joe took some of those pieces to New York to pursue a gallery show, Lichtenstein lent a hand.
I had 2 paintings, and they were too large to fit in a cab. And he had this Morgan car, this little roadster, right? Had the top down. I was sitting in the front seat, bent over the back seat, holding these 2 big sails. So I, down as hard as I could, so they wouldn't get blown away, or I wouldn't get blown away.
It was worth it. Joe's art received a warm welcome at the Jacques Seligman Gallery.
Mrs. Parker liked the work right away.
Teresa Parker ran the American department at Seligman. The show would be followed by 6 more at the gallery over a period of 15 years. He also had several exhibitions at the Kennedy Galleries in New York.
But he never really promoted himself outside of Cleveland. That the local galleries, the Bonfoy, the Vixie Boxy, these were the galleries where he had his works.
He is one of the few artists that was represented in New York City by 2 major galleries over a period of, 30 years. And yet he chose to stay in Ohio. And so when you look at that, you think, how much bigger would his career have been if he would have chosen to move to New York City like Roy Lichtenstein did? But he didn't, because to him it wasn't about that. It was about his love of painting and his wanting to just paint. And so I think he's an inspiration.
He would inspire a generation of future artists in the years to come.
At first I thought this was from Deer Isle, but he said, no, this is their backyard.
Yes.
And this is Joe's wife, Algesa, and their gardener having lunch in the backyard.
And they loved the
Joe
garden.
can recount for you everything that went on. He can remember almost every moment.
As he told his friend Lichtenstein after their gallery tour in New York, Joe did indeed go into his backyard, lush with color and full of life in Twin Lakes, just outside Kent. The Osickis moved there after son Joel's graduation from Hawken School in Cleveland. Joe had joined the art faculty at Kent State University.
My first encounter with a creative experience, a real creative experience. I didn't know I felt like I was working with a real artist.
Former student Ken Gesford had started college as a German major, but switched to art after taking a drawing class.
He never intimidated anyone. He was very gentle, and I loved that because I felt so inadequate with my own art. And then I had a teacher who was encouraging me in a very gentle way, and I knew that and everybody has a sense of where they are, and I hadn't had any experience, but he would say, he would point out things that were that made me feel good. It's like a lot of fuzzies, and he did that with a lot of his students. He was never intimidating anyone. He showed great respect.
Ever an individualist with his artwork, Joe developed his own style of teaching as well. He started not with showing students technique, but instead helping them learn about placement.
He says, good news today. He says, we're not going to draw the figure, and we're going to draw everything around the figure.
You start with a relationship. Choose something out there. Look at it. Don't move your eyes. Sense where the whole paper is. Put the position of things that are all on the periphery, that are, just locate the position. Don't care what kind of a mark you make, whether it's a line or a smudge or anything, but just get the position. When you find 2 other positions to that one you're looking at, try and sense what's in between those positions and where they are. Okay? And do nothing but find positions of things for the whole week. At the end of the week, They can tell where the position of other students' things are. They can look at them and they can sense where they are. They know where they are. And they can tell whether it's out of position. So this way you make some progress, and whether it's for drawing or for painting.
Joe's connections in the art world allowed him to expose students to a variety of esteemed peers. He helped develop Kent's Blossom Summer Arts program. Guessford remembers being awed by artists like Otto Pine, whose work he'd seen overseas while in the military.
I didn't know who Otto Pine was at all. And then I went to Kent State, and I'm in a Blossom program, and here Otto Pine's coming. Well, Otto Pine and Joe were having coffee together in the mornings. So it was pretty neat to, all at once, I mean, I'm thinking about this, and I saw some of the work when he did a slideshow of this, and I had some photographs of these inflatables as well, and they weren't as good as Otto Pine's slides, but that was a real eye-opener. And I think at that same time, Fairfield Porter came to Kent State, and I had a chance to work with him and Wayne Thiebaud, and Wayne and are good friends. So the interesting thing is Grace Hardigan, I had, and some great people that I had a chance. Kitaj was one of the guys that came. He was an English pop artist.
Ken took these experiences to his own classroom at Kent Roosevelt High School, where he taught for 30 years with an enthusiasm that changed many young views about art.
I mean, I'm not a self-made man, and I've had a lot of people help me along the way, and you know, Joe really was one of my, he was the spark. The great thing about this whole thing is that Joe and I are still friends.
They are working together on a program in Portage County schools that would encourage high school students to practice sketching, something Joe believes aids in artists' intuition.
I said that this insight can be gained and developed by intelligent use of the sketchbook. The practice of seeing, drawing, and sketching relationships between things quickly.
Joe continues to practice this himself. He sketched this scene from his backyard after his aide, Sammy, set out some water trays for the birds.
And I was sitting there and I had this scratch pad there, a yellow scratch pad, and other birds were coming around. And the finches came around. And all the purple martins and whatnots came, and the red-winged blackbirds, and they were all hovering around it, going to the bird feeders and trying to get a drink of water. And they were all flying around, and I started I had this bum pencil, and I started scribbling on this pad. I wanted to get those birds in the position they were in. So I scribbled this thing out.
He's extremely prolific. He lives for art. He lives just for creativity, and if he's not actually in his studio creating art, he's somewhere talking about it. And even across the dinner table, Joe is talking about art and the experience of creating art. So art is everything to him.
I'm going to put the same color on both of these and produce a different relationship.
Canton Museum of Art director M.J. Albisetti recalls his first encounter with the artist.
Because when I started at the Canton Museum of Art in January of 1975, Joe Osicki had his first exhibition at the Canton Museum of Art that same month. I literally had not received my first paycheck here, and I was dealing with the Osicki exhibition being installed here. I knew nothing about art or artists or anything like that. And meeting Joe Osicki right at the front like that, I thought all artists were fantastic, incredible, and I was to learn that that's not necessarily true. Joe was an amazing baptism into the world of art, and I never forgot that experience.
Now I want to preserve that brightness in there, and I want to preserve this brightness in here.
To him, it's all about composition and placement of, you know, he'll place a color here, well then he knows that he's got to balance it over here with something else. And so everything is a very balanced composition via mark, via color, line, whatever it is. I don't really understand how he determines that, but I do know that that's kind of the process that he works through. And most of his work is built on the everyday experiences and sketches that he makes.
Yes, this was in the wine fields in southern France.
Beautiful.
The one above the bed on this
This
side.
is by Algesa, I believe.
That's Algesa.
In 1981, Joe received an artist-in-residency grant from the Cleveland Institute of Art. He and Algesa traveled to Lacoste, France, where they spent 6 months teaching, touring, and painting. He'd studied the masters and called Matisse an influence on his approach to brightness and color. But as always, Joe took what he learned and made it his own.
While he's inspired by people and he appreciates things that people do, you really can't pick that out in his paintings over time. I mean, there's a quote that he says where he tried Matisse and he gave it up because he could do it. So it wasn't a challenge anymore. And so I think that he takes everything that he's learned and everything that's kind of been inspiring to him, but then creates his own way of doing things.
Now this one's a bowl of fruit.
Most important to him is that a painting has unity, which stems from how the elements of the piece work together in a relationship.
I'm very interested in that relationship right at the start of a work, because it helps the unity and the conception of the work. So it's part of the conception, so the color relationship is part of the whole thing that I'm acting upon. Don't like it there.
Color is one of the things that drew Ronnie and Denny Bell to the first Osicki painting they ever purchased.
And for her birthday, we did a tour of Vermont and New Hampshire, and we hit it at exactly the height of foliage season. And anything that we saw there, this eclipses anything that we saw there. This is even more brilliant than we saw in Vermont and New Hampshire. They're all gorgeous. Foliage season's the prettiest time of year. But Joe brings that back to us every time we look at it.
Everything he did had something different than just an ordinary painting that just showed the sight of different colors, but it had more than that. It had life to it. And that's what really enchanted me, because that's very hard to do. But with Joe, nothing was too hard for him.
If it's part of a unity, it can be looked at for a long time. You find the relationships, and those relationships are the things that allow the art to last and not fatigue on it. Once the unity breaks up for you, you're done with it.
I saw this on the wall. He had painted it. And if you notice on the table is a mandolin. That mandolin was my father's. When my dad died, Joe had always admired the mandolin. And I said, Joe, here, you take it for your painting. So one day I walk in, I see this painting, and it happened to be my birthday, and I see the mandolin. I said, Joe, that's my dad's mandolin. He says, yeah, it's also your painting. Happy birthday. So this was a birthday gift from Joe to me.
That kind of thoughtfulness drew the Bells to become not just collectors of Osicki's works, but close friends as well. They call their home an Osicki museum. Besides a number of large-scale paintings, there are a variety of unique, smaller, and meaningful pieces.
Joe, for a birthday, gave me a Polish-American joke book. And the joke book was a joke book. But I threw the joke book away, but I took the wrapping paper, which was this, recreated it into the way it was wrapped, and had it framed. Many painters' relationship is based upon painting. With Joe, it's based upon Joe and Algesa.
In the early 1990s, Joe had a studio built behind the house in Twin Lakes. He did a good bit of the finish work himself.
After it was all painted, I brought Algesa in so she could see it when the paint dried, okay, the floor is dried. And she said to me, she said, Joe, you have a great studio. And I said to her, you mean we have a great studio? I said, it's all 50-50, baby. It's always been 50-50. It's still 50-50. So we divided it, split it right in half, put the lockers in for definition.
During their marriage, Joe painted Algesa many times, but he got her to pose for him just once in a dress they'd received from an antique dealer.
She said, I'll give you 3 half hours to, she says, because I don't want to stand that long. I was painted fast, and I got everything in position, but that was the only time she posed for me.
The painting was featured in a catalog from a 2007 retrospective exhibit at the Cleveland Artists Foundation. But if you look at one in the catalog and see the painting that now hangs in Joe's house, you'll notice differences.
So I took it off the wall and took it in the studio. I put it flat on a couple of sawhorses and painted it upside down.
He did this after Algesa's death in December 2006 at the age of 89.
He keeps changing it. Mm-hmm. And I was down there last year, and we were sitting in front of the painting having a glass of wine. And I looked up the painting. I said, Joe, there's some changes in it. He said, yeah, I'm redoing. I said, Joe, you are never going to ever finish that painting. He said, why'd you say that? I said, because you don't want to. He cannot put closure into his relationship. That painting will never, ever be finished.
When Joe talks about Algesa, he's talking about a woman that is still very much alive to him. And she is with him always, although not physically, spiritually, she's still with him. That's a Romeo and Juliet story that goes on and on. And it's a fabulous romantic relation. It's a textbook, a storybook relationship.
Joe was sitting in a chair back in a nice warm, and he had one of Algesa's scarves around his neck. But I had seen him with that before because, doing that a lot, and I thought, wow, what a tribute to his wife. And they made a lovely couple. I have no regrets about anything. I had a better life than Picasso or Matisse or any of those people in New York. I wasn't divorced umpteen times. I had a very, very simple life, an enjoyable life, and a rich life. And Algesa and I we went everywhere. We were able to travel and see what we wanted. And we both had what I consider realization for each of us.
Before her death, Joe had also been ill and missing visiting Algesa for several weeks. When he had the chance to return to her bedside, he shared something special.
I didn't want to write a love letter. I thought that what it would interest her more would be a story. So I wrote this romance and called it a romance. Long ago, but not far away, tinkling bells announced an unusual sight right out of the etchings of Giambattista Tiepolo, a boy leading a donkey, pulling a cart full of open and closed umbrellas.
He's last of the Cleveland artists, and it was one of the greatest traditions in this area. He's like a national treasure, and what he has given, what he and his wife both have given and done for the arts is commendable. All you have to do is just go to one of his shows, and you'll see him.
For my darling Algesa, thank you for a wonderful life of no regrets. Ever yours, Joe. I cherish your life, your art, your love.
Funding for Joseph Osicki, The Art of Life, has been provided by Stark Community Foundation, celebrating 50 years as your trusted partner in giving. To learn how you can give back, visit starkcf.org. The Institute of Museum and Library Services, the primary source of federal support for the nation's 123,000 libraries and 17,500 museums.